What are the best practices in navigating faculty meetings if you're a junior faculty member? Stick around and let's talk about it today on this episode of Navigating Academia. What's up, Navigating Academia family? This is Dr. J. Phoenix Singh coming at you with another episode of Navigating Academia, your leading source for guidance on how you can advance your career in academia. Now, before we get started with today's episode, please do me a huge favor and smash that like button. If you know of any junior faculty members, maybe even in your department, go ahead and share the link to this video with them. If you love our content, please consider becoming a patron of ours on our new Patreon account, the link for which is down below. It's a few dollars a month, you help us out a ton, and also you get access to tons of exclusive content, as well as discounts when it comes to one-on-one coaching with me, when it comes to progressing your career in academia. You can learn things how to be able to get published, we can talk about how to be able to prepare your tenure application, all sorts of things. In addition to that, also you'll get a one-on-one personal shout out from me in a future episode of Navigating Academia. Now, I mentioned a second ago that if you're interested in booking a one-on-one session with me, you can do that. You can do that here via this personal website below of mine. We have a ton of new times that I've recently made available, and I'd love to be able to connect with you there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started talking about today's topic, which is, let's say that you're a junior faculty member. I still remember my first tenure track faculty position. I still remember my first big meeting that I went to, and it was all the faculty members, and I was in my early 20s, and I remember looking around and being like, I'm not supposed to be here, right? Total imposter syndrome, looking around that room. Everybody was so much older than I was. People were as old as being in their late 70s, early 80s. Some emeritus people were there. Everybody knew each other exceptionally well. And I was just some newbie little dude, still in hair at the time, if you can believe it. And it was a really weird situation for me. And maybe that's the position that you're in now, is that you've started your position and you're looking around these rooms and you're like, how am I supposed to to be honest, how am I supposed to make myself look good? How am I supposed to get myself ingratiated with these individuals? Because they're the ones who kind of, hold your future in their hands when it comes to things like getting tenure in the future. Also, you want to make sure that you can collaborate with other individuals and other labs, so other faculty members, with other labs in your department, to be able to make sure you can get more publications, learn advanced statistical analytic and research methodological skills, and basically just get more general tools into your academic tool belt. Maybe they're going to be going to some conferences and you can piggyback it and go with them, and they need to like you enough so that they actually will take you around and introduce you to people that already know, like, and trust them, meaning that they're significantly more likely to know, like, and trust you, which makes perfect sense, right? So what exactly do you do here? And you don't just have to be a new junior faculty member to benefit from these tips. Maybe it's something where you've already been there for a year, 2 years, you name it, and maybe that tenure clock is ticking down, and you're getting a little bit worried because maybe you're somebody who's a little bit introverted, and when it comes to going to meetings, you're not quite sure what to do. You like to do your own thing. You're a lone wolf, right, in that case. So these tips will also be relevant to you. Now, if you see me look down, I've made kind of a few notes here. I want to make sure that I get to everything here so I can be maximally useful to all of you out there, because I appreciate you guys and I want you all to be successful. So the first thing that I say this to anybody that I mentor, is be a pleasure. Be a pleasure to talk to, be a pleasure to be around in general, have a pleasant attitude about you. When you do speak, to the extent possible, have some energy. You don't have to be as energetic as I am, but certainly don't just be kind of like totally bland or disinterested. I hear a lot of people who, oh my goodness, they just have total downward inflection. So if you hear my voice at the end of every word, it goes up, right? Downward inflection is like this. Downward inflection is like this, right? Downward inflection, right? So this does not come across as an enjoyable person to speak with, as opposed to when I'm using upward inflection like this, right? It's frankly more enjoyable, and what it does is it provides an attitude of kind of supplication which works in teaching, and it also works when you're talking to individuals who are more senior than you are. Okay? Now, why is that? Because basically when you're teaching, like for now, I'm teaching, this is my teaching personality with you guys. Whenever you do consults with me, this is my personality, as you know. Now, if Daria and I are hanging out or whatever and chatting and these sorts of things, then I'm much more likely to use downward inflection, and I'm super chill compared to when I'm kind of on, when it comes to being on screen with you guys, right? But when you're teaching, it's really important to be able to use upward inflection because it gives other people the perception that you're somebody who doesn't think that you're better than anybody else, right? Literally, the information is coming through you. You're the conduit of the information, and it's the information that's important and not you, okay? You are the messenger, as it were. Same thing when you're dealing with people who are more senior than you are, right? If you're talking to somebody who's emeritus in 82 and your attitude comes across as very arrogant, that's not a good look, especially because they know way more people than you do, and academia is a very small world. Now, I do recommend that you watch a video of mine. It's called Academia is a Blood Sport, one word, blood sport, to be able to clarify. That's a good video, and it explains to you how kind of cliques in academia work. And I actually earlier this year made another video which is all about how to deal with haters and cliques within academia, because within your department, sorry to say, the likelihood is that especially if you're good at what you do, or if you just can't bring yourself to be able to use upward inflection and to be friendlier, more outgoing and such, probably some people in the department are going to become haters. That's a huge bummer, especially if there's pre-established cliques in the department and a few of the folks who are kind of higher in the hierarchy of that clique, they're just not big fans of yours. That really stinks, and that does happen. Now, that one luckily hasn't happened to me, but I do have colleagues where that's definitely happened to them. And that's super a bummer. Right? And so this is the reason why it's really important to get effective in terms of communicating with individuals in these faculty meetings. So that's number one. It's just be a pleasure. Pleasure to be around. Pleasure to talk to. Pleasure to have in the meetings. You're a pleasant person. Number one. Number two is to greet people when you come into the meeting, right? So when you come in, don't, be on your phone or be on your tablet. Don't kind of, keep the computer in front of you the whole time, which is a third piece of advice. Pay attention. Pay attention in the meetings. Bring a notepad, even if you're just doodling. Bring a notepad and make it clear that you're writing things down. Nod at people when they're speaking. Don't be nuts and you're not a bobblehead, okay? Nice and slow nods, okay? Nice slow nods increase the likelihood that an individual is going to keep speaking by about 30%. i.e. they speak about 30% more if you're doing it. And that's a good thing. When somebody's talking, they want to know that someone's listening in the audience. And the fact that you're going to be nodding your head is great for them, right? It's a sign that you respect them and that you recognize that they're speaking, what they have to say is valuable. So make sure that you are paying attention. The other piece of this, of course, is, when you're going there and talking to folks, make sure that you don't just greet the people you already know, greet people you don't know yet, and even consider sitting with new individuals. There's a lot of people in the department who maybe this is academia, there's going to be people in the department who are, let's be honest, a little bit socially awkward, academia. Right? And so because of that, you just taking the time to be able to sit with them, ask how they're doing and so forth, make them feel comfortable, you can make a friend for life and an ally who can really help you down the line. So I really do recommend that. Don't just kind of have one or two fellow faculty friends that you just sit with all the time. That's really not the right thing to do, especially when you're at the beginning of this tenure track journey and you need to make as many connections as you can, okay? Number three is to volunteer as much as you conceivably can. So for example, if they're looking for some new committee member to serve on a committee that you wouldn't mind sitting on, volunteer to do it. Maybe you love, for example, I love stats, and so because of that, somebody in the department was talking to a faculty member about starting a stats kind of special interest group. And so I said, this is great. I would love to be able to not only be a part of that, but if I can help organize anything, I can go get food, I can go get donuts to be able to bring soda to bring to the meetings, cups to bring to the meetings, I'm more than happy to do it. And this was great. Again, it builds goodwill. And that's what you want, is to be building up as much goodwill as you conceivably can at that point in your career. So volunteer as much as you can, whatever that means for you and for your department. The next one is listen. If you're a new faculty member, the last thing you want to do is to try to prove that you're smart by just talking. right? By just going on. You don't need to prove that. You wouldn't have the faculty position. Okay, you wouldn't have that position yet. And frankly, it doesn't make you look good. It makes you look arrogant, right? And I'm talking to somebody who did that, okay? It doesn't make you look good. So to the extent possible, be around, be pleasant, don't come across as arrogant, and at the same time, just be chill. Just be a chill person, right? There's nothing wrong with kind of, taking your time to respond instead of just reacting, raising your hands, asking a million questions during the meeting and all. If it's something where you have a question that's kind of especially more personal for you, in terms of it's only relevant to you, it's high specificity question as I call it on this channel, wait until the meeting's over and then just go and talk to the person who was talking and where you had the question. Go and chat with them. Invite them to lunch, right? These sorts of, meetings, they don't have to be formal meetings. They can just be get to know you things. Chair of my department, I used to go to the gym together in the mornings, right? We both like getting on the elliptical and, like strength training. So, and he was much older than I was, about 40 years older than I was. And he was just a really chill dude. I just really enjoyed that guy's company. He had great stories and was very experienced in the field. Him and I both would go to the gym at 5:30 a.m. in the morning before work. And we would just go and, shoot the ish, as they say, or whatever, while we were on the elliptical and do some strength training, and that was it, right? And him and I became, close friends because of that. And that relationship paid dividends down the line. He's a great guy, still very, very fond of him. So that's the idea there, is just listen, right? People like to be able to hear the sound of their own voice, right? And that's okay. You can learn so much from listening to people. You don't have to talk all the time. And this comes from a dude who loves to talk, right? So that's number 4. Last but not least, number 5, let your work speak for itself. You don't need to be going around, and again, you won't think that it's coming across in a braggadocious way, but going around and being like, oh, I published this new paper, it's like, I'll send you a copy. Instead, think about how can your new publications, external grant funding opportunities, you going to conferences, whatever it happens to mean, how can you use those things to be able to build social capital? So for example, let's say you just put out a new publication and it's using propensity scoring, structural equation modeling, whatever it is. Take a look in the department, who else basically does research either with that methodology, that could be one way to go, or who doesn't use that kind of methodology, but where when you take a look at their previous research, you read the methods section, you learn about their data sets, and the things that they're looking into, let's say the hypotheses listed in the introduction section, you can take a look and be like, this person's doing some interesting research. I actually think that, using propensity scoring or using rash analysis or meta-analysis or whatever your du jour statistical analytic technique is, to be able to kind of bring that to the table for them and say, I would love to be able to see if there's a way that maybe I could help, because I really admire the work that you're doing, and I'm sure that I could learn a lot from you. That's what you want to say. You don't want to go in and say something like, yeah, I think that you may want to consider this. I know those statistical analytic techniques, so if you give me the data set, I can run some analyses and I can see if there's anything in there. Right? That doesn't really come across that well. It makes it seem like, trust me on this one, I'm doing you a big favor here. No, even if it's not actually the case, make it seem like they're doing you a favor, right? People like to do favors for people, right? In fact, sometimes the best way to make friends is to ask for a little favor, something that, I'm going to be out for the next 10 minutes. Can you just let me know if, such and such a person shows up at my door? Fine. That's fine. It's such a tiny thing. They won't care. And because you've asked them for a tiny favor, they then feel comfortable asking you for a favor. And this kind of back and forth when it comes to favors is a great way to be able to build connections and friendships. So those are my big pieces of advice, guys, looking down on my list here in terms of how to navigate meetings as a junior faculty member. If you have any further questions or any questions that come down the line in the future, please do feel free to put them down here in the questions and comments section below. Make sure to become a patron of ours on Patreon. We love and appreciate you guys. And don't forget, always get out there, take chances with these sorts of social capital building activities, and be your best self. Appreciate you. Have a great day. Peace. Thank you so much for stopping by, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here as always. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more in this series on navigating academia, please click on one of these links over here to be able to view more original content. I hope to see you there.